Before reading the explanation of Al-Bayquniyyah, let's continue just unraveling the metin with a literal breakdown. We already started, but let's just, since we didn't get far, we'll start from the top and then go from there. So the author says, Rahimahullah, Abda'u bilhamdi musalliyan ala Muhammadin khayri nabiyyin ursila. I start with the hamd. I start by praising God. Musalliyan, as one who makes salah. So musalliyan here, it's called hal. It's an adverb. So it means I praise God while making salah. Ala Muhammad, upon Muhammad. As someone who makes salah upon Muhammad, because that's a sifa, musalliya. You knew it by the meme there. That's an adjective. Abda'u bilhamdi. I start with the hamd. Musalliyan, as one who makes salah, special supplications. Ala Muhammadin, upon Muhammad. Khayri nabiyyin ursila, the best prophet ever sent. And this alif here, ursila, this is called alif al-itlaq. Alif al-itlaq, that's to keep the beat. It's an extension to keep the meter. Abda'u bilhamdi musalliyan ala Muhammadin khayri nabiyyin ursila. وذي من أقسام الحديث عدة. وذي, and these, he means what's about to be presented. من أقسام الحديث are amongst the divisions of hadith. Some of them, not all of them. عدة, a number of them. A count of them. وَكُلُّ وَاحِدٍ أَتَى وَحَدَّهُ, and each one came with its definition. أَتَى, it came, وَحَدَّهُ, and its definition, meaning with its definition. The had is the definition. Sometimes we'll call the definition a had. And sometimes we'll call the definition ta'arif. But the author didn't give a definition for each type that he presented. Sometimes he gave an example. So each one will come with its definition, or what's like a definition, such as an example, just to give you a picture, even if it wasn't defined in words. أولها الصحيح وهو MuttaSil. The first of them is the sahih. وهو, here you say وهو, see that sukun there? So don't say وهو, it breaks the beat. وهو MuttaSil. The first of them is the sahih, the sound hadith, and it is وهو MuttaSil isnaduhu. So all of this is one sentence here. MuttaSil isnaduhu. وهو MuttaSil isnaduhu. What's that sukun right there? That's for the sake of the beat. But originally there would be a fatha there, because that's a fi'lun madin, past tense verb. Past tense verb always ends with fatha. So, وَهُوَ MuttaSil isnaduhu. It is that which its chain of narration connected, meaning was continuous. So that's one condition. وَلَمْ يَشُذَّ, and it wasn't irregular. Lam yashudh, it didn't deviate. Deviate here means be anomalous. Like we said, anomalous here means that it appears to be a fine hadith. It appears to be an authentic hadith. And we didn't discover any particular defect in it other than that it can't comply with a more reliable hadith. So then we knew that it's not actually authentic. So it's anomalous. وَلَمْ يَشُذَّ, that's a condition. So that's second condition for authenticity. أَوْ يُعَلْ, nor was it defective or flawed. And there are many defects. So when we say defect here, it means something detectable, even faintly detectable. So that's different. That's a third condition. يَرْوِيهِ عَدْلٌ, it's narrated by an upright one. That's fourth. ضَابِطٌ, precise or accurate or exact. That's fifth condition. عَنْ مِثْلِهِ, from his likes. So that's the first one. أَوَّلُهَا الصَّحِيح, and why he starts there, as they usually do in the hadith authentication, in the hadith terminology books. Why do they usually start there in the hadith terminology books? Because the authentic hadith is the one we want most. So the first of them is the sound hadith, and it is that which it had a continuous chain of narration and was not anomalous, nor was it flawed. It was narrated by an upright, precise one. عَنْ مِثْلِهِ, from his likes. مُعْتَمَدٌ, this upright, precise one is mu'tamad. He's reliable. What do they call the narrator when he fulfills the conditions? They call him hujjah. He's a hujjah. Hujjah means proof or evidence. It means he's mu'tamad. He's reliable. The narrator himself, he's the hujjah. He's a source. Mu'tamadun fi dabtihi wa naqlihi. He's reliable in his dabt, his accuracy, wa naqlihi, and his documentation. Wal hasan wal ma'arufu turqan. And the Hasan hadith is the one that its pathways are known. The Hasan hadith is traceable. وَغَدَتْ رِجَالُهُ, and its men became لَا كَالصَّحِيحِ اشْتَهَرَتْ, not like how the men of authentic hadith were famous. The fair hadith is the one that its pathways are known. It is traceable, and its men became not like how the men of authentic hadiths were famous. So we said this refers to the difference in dabt. The dabt, which is the accuracy. The authentic narrators, they have the highest level of accuracy because they have photographic memories. Dabtu sadr. So the wording in Arabic is dabtu sadr. That means heart precision or chest precision, chest accuracy. That is their ability to recall their hadiths whenever they want. Yani, they memorize that until it is engraved into their hearts. As opposed to what? As opposed to Dabtul Kitab, precise record keeping. Precise record keeping, which is inferior to memorization. The writing is inferior to the memorization. That's different from non-Muslim standard. So we talked about them. So that's the second type of hadith. So the first one was the sahih. Second one is the hasan. Then he says, وَكُلُّ عَنْ رُتْبَةِ الْحُسْنِ قَصُرٍ فَهُوَ الضَّعِيفُ وَهُوَ أَقْسَامًا كَثُرٍ. And all of what? From the rank of husn falls short, then it is weak. فَهُوَ الضَّعِيفُ وَهُوَ أَقْسَامًا كَثُرٍ. And it is of many divisions. We talked about why there's so many types of weak hadiths last time, so review that. That's as far as we got last week. So here he defined what's the sahih hadith. Sahih hadith is the hadith that fulfills these 5 conditions. So memorize those conditions, and then you'll be able to say what's an authentic hadith. You'll say an authentic hadith is a such and such, that's such and such, and such and such, and such and such, and such and such. Then you'll define it properly, inshallah. What about Hasan hadith? Did he define it? So he said, وَالْحَسَنُ الْمَعْرُوفُ طُرْقًا. The Hasan is what has known pathways. And that implies that it has more than one route. That implies that it has more than one route. But it's not a condition, because he said turqan, so that's plural. Pathways. وَغَدَتْ رِجَالُهُ. And its men became لَا كَالصَّحِيحِ اشْتَهَرَتْ. Not like how the men of authentic hadiths were famous. So this is not a clear definition of Hasan hadith. And a Hasan hadith is a hadith that fulfills the lowest levels of acceptability. It fulfills the lowest levels of acceptability. And then what's a da'if hadith? It's a hadith that misses at least one condition of acceptability. You can take that from when the author says here, وَكُلُّ مَا عَنْ رُتْبَةِ الْحُسْنِ قَصُرٍ. And all of what falls short of the rank of Hasan. That means even if one condition is missing, فَهُوَ ضَعِيفٌ, then it's weak. So depending on which condition is missing, that's a different type of weakness. وَهُوَ أَقْسَامًا كَثُرٍ. And it's many divisions, because there are even combinations of missing conditions. That's as far as we got last time. So now we're going to continue from where we left off. How many lines did we do so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. He says, وَمَا أُضِيفَ لِلنَّبِي الْمَرْفُوعُ وَمَا لِتَابِعٍ هُوَ الْمَقْطُوعُ. Anything attributed to the Prophet is marfu', and what is for a follower is MaqTu. Okay, so now he wants to talk about some other types of hadiths, but not concerning their rank. Not concerning their rank, but concerning their category or type, yani, other than their strength. So he starts by 2 of them here on this line. He mentions what's attributed to the Prophet, and he mentions what's attributed to a follower of the companions. So then you could see right there that in this one line, he skipped mentioning the Sahaba. He's going to come back to it though. So one might expect that he would mention what's attributed to the Prophet, and then what's attributed to the companions, and then what's attributed to the followers. But he didn't. He said, وَمَا أُضِيفَ لِلنَّبِي الْمَرْفُوعُ. Whatever is attributed to the Prophet is marfu'. So, لِلنَّبِي, to the Prophet is marfu'. وَمَا لِتَابِعٍ, and whatever is for a tabi'i, that's follower of the companions, not a companion, huwa al-maqtu'u, then that's called MaqTu'. So why he did that for the rhyme? Because what's attributed to a companion is called mawquf. This doesn't sound as nice. So he said, whatever is attributed to the Prophet is marfu', and whatever is attributed to a tabi'i is MaqTu'. And then you might say, what about what's attributed to a sahabi? So he'll tell you later, inshallah. Now, one thing to notice here is that in the word nabi, he put a sukoon on the ya. So usually, originally there's a hamza there, nabi, nabi. And then the hamza flipped into a ya, and then you merge the two yas. So you say nabi, nabi, prophet. So he basically dropped that second ya, and that's why there's a sukoon there. And that's for the sake of the poetry. Because if you double that ya, you're going to break the beat. So that's among the things that the poet is allowed to do. He has license, poetic license. وَمَا أُضِيفَ لِلنَّبِي الْمَرْفُوعُ. And here, there's a dhamma. This dhamma, you're going to stretch it like there's a wow here. So when you read it, you're saying, وَمَا أُضِيفَ لِلنَّبِي الْمَرْفُوعُ وَمَا لِتَابِعٍ هُوَ الْمَقْطُوعُ. But you don't write the wow. That's just like in the first line. That alif right there, Muhammadin khayri nabiyyin ursila. I told you that alif is there to keep the beat. Alif al-itlaq. So it's like that, but that's not an alif. So whatever is attributed to the Prophet is marfu'. Marfu' means raised, elevated. So that's what it's called. This is hadith terminology, mustalah. If you want to be successful in mustalah, then you have to have your vocabulary together. Because we're just going to be throwing out words. Whatever is attributed to the Prophet is marfu'. So that's open. That includes words that he said, actions that he did, things that happened in his presence without his objection, and descriptions of him. And that even includes things that the companion wouldn't know, or any person wouldn't be able to know without revelation. Like saying that such and such thing would happen on Judgment Day. So, وَمَا أُضِيفَ لِلنَّبِي الْمَرْفُوعُ. Whatever is attributed to the Prophet is marfu'. Marfu' hadith. They would say, hadithun marfu'. Marfu' hadith. Marfu' hadith does not mean authentic or hasan or weak. Could be any one of those. And marfu' hadith doesn't mean connected chain or disconnected chain. It means attributed to the Prophet. وَمَا أُضِيفَ لِلنَّبِي الْمَرْفُوعُ وَمَا لِتَابِعٍ هُوَ الْمَقْطُوعُ. And whatever is for a tabi'i, a follower, then it is MaqTu'. So the follower of the companion, he's the one who met a companion. He's a believer who met a companion or more. With some details the scholars talk about. Like if he just met him, or if he learned from him, or what. Anything attributed to one of them is called MaqTu'. وَمَا لِتَابِعٍ هُوَ الْمَقْطُوعُ. Khabar MaqTu'. And doesn't stop with the tabi'i. The MaqTu report is not only for a tabi'i. MaqTu report is for a tabi'i and beyond. So Marfu is for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Mawquf, which he didn't talk about yet in the poem, it's for the companion. MaqTu is for the tabi'i and onward from there. والمسند المتصل الإسناد من راويه حتى المصطفى ولم يبن. Now he wants to give you a new type. So he told us here we have Marfu' and we have here MaqTu'. Now he wants to tell you Musnad. وَالْمُسْنَدُ الْمُتَّصِلُ الْإِسْنَادِ. The Musnad, linked hadith, is the one with a connected chain. وَالْمُسْنَدُ الْمُتَّصِلُ الْإِسْنَادِ. The one with a connected chain, مِنْ رَاوِيهِ حَتَّى الْمُصْطَفَى. From the beginning of its chain, from the narrator who's producing the chain, all the way until the selected one. وَلَمْ يَبِنْ, and is not severed. So what that means is a Musnad hadith is a special type of Marfu' hadith. Now I should be able to, at this point, say the Arabic words more freely, with less concern that you're not following me. That's easier for me to just be able to say Marfu', MaqTu', Musnad, etc., etc. Musalsal, Mu'dal. So Musnad hadith is a particular type of Marfu' hadith. It's not merely Marfu'. It is Marfu', that means attributed to the Prophet, and MuttaSil, with a continuous chain. Marfu' with a continuous chain. So you have two types of hadiths. One type is called MuttaSil, continuous chain. Any type of hadith, any report with continuous chain, MuttaSil. And you have a type of report called Marfu', attributed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if one hadith has both attributes, continuous chain and attributed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then it's called Musnad, al-Musnad. وَالْمُسْنَدُ الْمُتَّصِلُ الْإِسْنَادِ. وَالْمُسْنَدُ الْمُتَّصِلُ الْإِسْنَادِ مِنْ رَاوِيهِ حَتَّى الْمُصْطَفَى وَلَمْ يَبِنْ. So where's the part in this line that means that it's a Marfu' hadith? That part is here, where he says, Hatta al-Mustafa, until getting to the selected one. So if it doesn't go back to the selected one, then it's not Musnad. If it has continuous chain, but just goes back to a companion, then it's not Musnad. Or just goes back to a tabi'i, although it has continuous chain, then it's not called Musnad. Never? We'll see if there's some details when we read. But that's a good question here, never, because sometimes need to be loose. We're talking language here, too. Sometimes some concepts cross. But this is our base here. Musnad means continuous chain back to the Prophet in particular, alayhi salatu wassalam. وَمَا بِسَمْعِ كُلِّ رَاوٍ يَتَّصِلْ إِسْنَادُهُ لِلْمُصْطَفَى فَالْمُتَّصِلْ. وَمَا بِسَمْعِ كُلِّ رَاوٍ يَتَّصِلْ إِسْنَادُهُ لِلْمُصْطَفَى فَالْمُتَّصِلْ. He says, and anything by hearing of every narrator, its chain is connected. And everything by the hearing of every narrator, its chain is connected. Yani, every connected chain, every chain that is connected by each narrator having heard from the other. So that's very specific there. We're not talking about someone read something. We're not talking about somebody found something. He heard it. Each narrator heard. Hearing is superior to reading. A good educator will tell you, go learn. He might tell you, go read, but a bad educator will tell you, go read. It won't tell you, go learn. Learning here meaning hearing. وَمَا بِسَمْعِ كُلِّ رَاوٍ يَتَّصِلْ إِسْنَادُهُ لِلْمُصْطَفَى فَالْمُتَّصِلْ. And anything by the hearing of every narrator, its chain is connected to the Prophet, to the selected one. فَالْمُتَّصِلْ, then it's connected. It's muttasil, connected hadith. Hadith with connected chain of narration, continuous chain of narration. So here he draws attention to the MuttaSil. Though it looks like he just talked about the Musnad hadith twice. Maybe you noticed that. Looks like he talked about the Musnad twice, has connected chain back to the Prophet. So it's Musnad. Yes, but he wants to draw your attention to two different things. In one instance, he wants to draw your attention to a type of hadith that has two qualities, that it's attributed to the Prophet and has continuous chain of narration. In another instance, he wants you to focus on the continual chain of narration more than its attribution to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he still didn't tell us what it's called, if it's from a companion. Well, I'm telling you that because that's what I noticed when I studied Al-Bayquniyyah. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. I said to myself, why didn't it talk about the Sahaba yet? Well, Allah knows best. Maybe it's just the way he's putting his thoughts together, how he was able to put his poem together. He says, Musalsalun قل ما على وصف أتى مثل أما والله أنباني الفتى. Musalsal, series narration. He says, Kul, say, in defining it, Musalsal. That's the next one up. Kul, say about it, say in definition of it. But as a description, not very well defined. Take a description of it to get a picture of it and not a very well structured definition. Ma ala wasfin ata. It is what came with a description. It is what came with certain scenario. Mithlu, like Ama wallahi ambani al-fata. Like for every narrator to say, Wallahi ambani. I swear to God, he told me. Each narrator, I swear to God, he told me. I swear to God, he told me. I swear to God, he told me. So that's called Musalsal, a series. Something that keeps recurring in the chain with each narrator, or most of them, or a number of them. The chain could be partially. There could be a series and part of the chain and not all of the chain. That series could be words that were said, or it could be an action that was done. Like, it could be that each narrator stood up and grabbed his beard. So that says it one by one, one by one. And he took hold of his beard, and he took hold of his beard, and he took hold of his beard. Could be that this narration is narrated at a particular time, like it's an occasion. So it would be that on such and such day he narrated, that on such and such day he narrated, that on such and such day he narrated. This is Musalsal hadith. He gives more examples. He says, كذاك قد حدثنيه قائما أو بعد أن حدثني تبسما. Likewise, the series might be that each narrator says, he told me while standing, or that each narrator says, after he told me, he smiled. So you can see here that to talk about Musalsal hadith, he took 2 lines. Took 2 complete lines there. Talk about Musalsal hadith. Now he goes on and he says, Aziz marwi ithnaini aw thalatha, Mash-hur marwi fawqa ma thalatha. Aziz is what is narrated by 2 or 3, and Mash-hur is what is narrated by, looks like he says, more than 3. فوق ما ثلاثة. So here he gave us 2 more types of hadiths. He says, Aziz marwi ithnaini aw thalatha. It's the marwi. Aziz is the marwi. Marwi means what's narrated. So the rawi is the narrator, and the marwi is what is narrated. So the Aziz is what is narrated by 2 or 3. What did we learn in Nukhbatul Fikr? That Aziz hadith is not narrated by less than 2 at every level. Not less than 2 at every level. Azizu marwi ithnaini aw thalatha. Mash-hur. The next type of hadith is Mash-hur. Mash-hur means famous or popular. Aziz means rare, or it means supported. Mash-hur marwi fawqa ma thalatha. And the famous report is what is narrated above 3. That's what it looks like. Marwi fawqa ma thalatha. But what it really means, and it's valid, is that it means 3 or more. The Mash-hur, the famous narration, is what's narrated by 3 or more. But it might appear to someone that it's saying more than 3. And you might sometime find someone talk like that. If you did, then you'll say, oh, I see now how you did that. I knew an example that's kind of sort of like this. It's not exactly the same thing, though. For example, a person's landlord says to him, you need to pay me before the 1st. You need to pay me before the 1st. But he might mean you could pay me on the 1st. If you pay me on the 1st, that's fine. It's on time. But that's not what he says, though. He says before the 1st. He means not later than the 1st. You need to pay me not later. So that's kind of sort of like what he's saying here in this line. Mash-hur marwi fawqa ma thalatha. The Mash-hur is what is narrated by 3 or more. Let's see how many lines have we done so far. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's stop here. Allah knows best.